I'm glad to share with you the knowledge that I've gained over the years of being in this business. Being in the same business you are for years has been a real help. And I'm glad to talk to you about financial services because for me, to take a poor boy from Kentucky and for him to retire on Park Avenue in New York, it was quite a journey. And I really believe in financial services. It is the one level playing field where everyone has an opportunity to succeed, no matter what your background is or where you came from. It's only your desire, your willingness to work, and your ability to talk with others in your circle that really make a difference. So I'm pleased that we have this chance to talk about financial services, and pleased that I get to share some of the things that I've seen work in my own life and in firms that I've worked with over the years. And one of those is scripting. Scripting is really, really important. We talked about that last week, as you'll remember. We discussed a script in the movie The Black Panther. And last week, as you know, I thought The Black Panther said a lot of great things, and it said it in a way that was really important. And the reason is it was a brilliant script. The script was written with careful attention to detail. And because of that, every word was really significant and important. But the one actor or the one character who spoke that marvelous line that I thought was so important, and in fact, I have repeated this line about 5 times this past week with friends, simply because it's so important, and I've written it down and sent it off more than once to folks who need to understand it. The Black Panther's father said, "A man who doesn't prepare his children for his own death has failed as a father." Wow, that's a powerful statement, isn't it? A man who does not prepare his children for his own death has failed as a father. And the truth is, in my experience, most dads have not done that. One of the saddest statements people make to me is, I talked to my dad about it, and he said, "No, I'm going to let somebody else take care of that. Somebody else will take care of it." Can you imagine one of the most important things in the life of a family? A father decides that he is not going to take responsibility for what's going to come. It's just ridiculous. But the problem is most guys don't understand how important this is because it's never been explained to them. But I'm grateful for those of you who heard and responded to our quiz. And then we had 2 winners. Listen, it was a hard question, but 2 of you really came through. And I'm pleased. Michael Daly in Oak Park, California, thank you for your correct answer. And it was hard to get both of these correct, to know the character and the quote. So thank you very much for that. And then Jason Nunez in San Diego, thank you again. I appreciate you guys, everyone who responded. Thank you for taking the time to write in and let us know the answers. It was important for me, and I appreciate you guys who got it right. I'm not the only one who listened to the movie and heard things I thought would be really important. So I'm glad that you guys got that right. And by the way, I'll send you a copy of my book, For Talk. For Talk means a conversation about an expected event. And the one event that we all have in common is that someday our days on earth will end. And so For Talk is how to talk about that in a conversational way that's not alarming, that's not difficult. It came as a result of, as many of you know, from my brother's death without any preparation. And that's what really called me to be doing what I'm doing and working with NetLaw. So it's called For Talk. It's available on Amazon. I will sign a dedication to you and get off into you in the mail within the next week or so. So thank you again. I appreciate you, Michael and Jason. It was terrific to have your answers. But it was a hard question, but evidently not for you two. So today we're going to talk about scripting for dollars. And the first question is, why would you ever want to use a script? I like what A.C. Benson said. He said, this is what he said regarding scripting. It's often wonderful how putting down on paper a clear statement helps one to see not perhaps the way out, but the way in. Did you hear what he said? Writing it on paper gives you a way in. And what most of us need is a way in, right? We need to know how to start the conversations, how to get involved, how to discuss what we do and what the product offers, and a way to do it that's not interrupting a client, but is a part of a conversation. That's what scripts do. And we're going to talk about ways to do that specifically today. But first, let's answer the question, you've heard me say so important to me is the why. I remember my dad saying, because I said so. That wasn't really a good answer. And I remember other people I'd worked for in firms who said, well, because this is what we do. That's not a clear answer either. So why should you use a script? Well, it helps you choose your words in advance. Goodness gracious. Have you ever been in a situation where you left a conversation or someone made a comment and you just got in the car or left the room and you thought, yuck, I wish I'd said this, or I wish I'd said that better, or I wish I'd responded in a different way, or man, did I ever blow that? I had no clue what they were talking about, or I knew exactly the things I should say, but it just didn't come to my mind. Listen, when you choose your words in advance, then you know how to respond to these difficult situations. When you walk away and think, oh my gosh, I wish I had said, oh my gosh, I wish I had said, you've just admitted that you failed to prepare. Has it happened to me? Hundreds of times. That's the reason I know this so well. Choosing your words in advance is a real advantage. You never want to say, oh, I wish I had. Those are bad words to say, right? Because when you choose your words in advance, you get prepared for both positive, neutral, and negative responses. I mean, how many things can a client say? They can either agree, positive, say, well, I need more information, or that sounds good, neutral, or a negative response. I don't think that's for me. So no matter what what your question or concern is, there's only three things a client can do. Of course, they could not say anything and just toss you out of the room, but we know that's not going to happen. At least it never happened to me, and I'm sure it's not going to happen to you either. But the three things that are really on everybody's mind are they're either going to agree, say okay, or be negative. So when you write a script, you prepare for all three of those responses. You know exactly how you're going to respond to what they just said. And it allows you to think through your response before you get there. Goodness gracious. And when we don't think through our responses, we just sort of stutter, or we say, oh, yeah, this may not be right for you. Yeah. Oh, you think it's too expensive? Yeah, yeah, it could be expensive. I mean, suppose the client says, well, I've already taken care of that. What do you say? Well, I'm going to show you how to respond to that later in the day. Think through your responses before they're required. It makes a huge difference. And then you get prepared to initiate the conversation. One of the most difficult things as a salesperson is how to start the conversations, right? We want to talk about that. But that's why you have a script, because you want to get your language and your words and your expression very clear when you start a conversation with a client. It's really important. And then the other thing about script, allows you to practice. How many times have you heard me say, practice, brother and sister, practice? When we get in difficulties, when we don't practice. Can you imagine showing up at an orchestra, getting ready to prepare a symphony, and you just got your new oboe or clarinet or trumpet, and you're sitting in trying to play? You make awful sounds, right? I would. And that's what happens to people who don't prepare. Listen, what we do repeatedly, that's what we are. We are what we repeatedly do. Whatever we do over and over, that describes us. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act. It's not a one-time action, but it's a habit. And what scripts do allow you to do is to create this habit of language response. Gosh, I wonder who said that. Aristotle. Boy, that was a long time ago. His pupil, as you know, was Socrates. He was one of the wisest men in all of Greece. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And I want you to get scripts so you can make this habit work. A sales script can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Worst enemy? A script, your worst enemy? That's why some of you don't want to use a script, because you've had negative experiences, or someone has told you that a script can fail. How does it fail? Well, for some people, you lose your natural speech and cadence when you're reading. You know how that works. The other day, my wife and I were watching a television show, and a local commercial came on with a gentleman marketing his product, and I don't want to say what or who, but he said, "Hi there, my name is blankety blank, and I'm the owner of blankly blank. I want you to know that we at blankly blank are here to serve you, and we pride ourselves on our service. Boy, when speech loses its natural sound and its cadence, it is awful. And you can do that. Some people read without thinking through the words. And the important thing is every script needs to sound natural. That's why I'm going to tell you over and over again, a script is a guide. You use the words, but make them your words. The other problem with a script is that you lose the ability to have a conversation. What does that mean? That means when some people start, they can't stand any detour. Any diversion. If someone says, oh, wait a minute, let me ask you a question. They don't know what to say because they were in their script, and you lose the ability to have a conversation. And rather than a conversation, the script makes it a presentation. There's a big difference between the two, isn't there? A presentation, unfortunately, you don't have an opportunity to have a conversation. You're so focused on the presentation, and that can happen in a scripting situation. Plus, man, when you're boring, unfortunately, of course, when you lose your speech and cadence, when you can't have a conversation, you're going to lose your client's attention. Client's attention cut off. How many times have you been sitting in a place where someone was talking and you just bored out? You just dropped out. Please don't do that during the webinar today. That would really be disappointing. The other thing you do is you lose sales. You lose sales. If you are not sounding natural, if you can't have a conversation, if you can't keep the client's attention, you're going to lose sales. And sometimes scripts can help you not create a sale if you don't work with it. It can be your worst enemy, but script can also be your best friend. Why? Well, it adds confidence. Listen, selling is an insecure profession in some ways. Your success depends upon not just what you do, but how someone else responds. And because of that, we can lose confidence. We lose confidence in ourselves. Sometimes you get so many negative responses, you think there's no positive responses out there. I used to like negative responses because it got me one step closer to a yes. Every no got me one step closer to a yes. Don't worry about negative responses. If your script works, if you practice it, just take the confidence that it brings when you're talking to clients and do it again and again. And the script gives you confidence. This is going to make sense. And it stops winging it. You know what winging it is, right? Winging it is when you get in a situation and you just talk and it goes nowhere. You just try to pull things out of the air. That's the reason it's called winging it. Try to pull things out of the air that support whatever it is you're saying. But you have no confidence, and your client is thinking to themselves the whole time, what the dickens is going on here? What's he talking about? Have you been in a situation again where you've heard somebody talking, you thought, what? I would take notes, but this stuff doesn't even make sense to me. And that's because people fumble. Speakers do it all the time, and it's always a lack of preparation that does it. And it's preparation that makes a difference with a script. You're prepared, and you're prepared for the unexpected. Now, some are thinking, hey, Stan, how do you prepare for the unexpected? You can't do that. You prepare for what is expected, right? No, you prepare for the unexpected. Let me give an example. Do you have a spare tire in your car? Well, that's preparing for the unexpected. No one expects a flat tire anymore. Gosh, most of us drive places where we don't have the risks that come to cars, so we don't expect a flat tire, but all of us carry a spare. So we prepare for the unexpected, and that's what a script allows you to do. Then there's consistency. One of the problems with sometimes in sales is that we say one thing one time, one thing another thing another. That worked, I'll try that this time, that time. That's what a script does. It allows you to not do those silly time-wasting exercises that are non-productive, especially in the front of a client. A script allows you to be consistent in what you say to your client and give a consistent response to questions. It makes a huge difference. Smart, excellent, well-prepared, and successful advisors stay consistent in what they're talking about. And they wordsmith. What does wordsmith means? It means you choose a word carefully. You don't use slang language that really doesn't have a meaning outside your immediate group of people that you talk with, your immediate surroundings, or the people that you relate to. You wordsmith. You try to say something that has appeal beyond what you just said. There's all kinds of slang words. I mean, in Kentucky, in Kentucky, we have a lot of mispronounced words and phrases. One of those is jeet yet. Yeah, jeet yet. Sometimes as part of the humor in a presentation, I will teach people how to talk Southern. And one of the words is jeet yet. Jeet yet means, did you eat yet? Did you eat yet? Have you eaten? Did you have lunch? Did you have breakfast? Jeet yet? Boy, nobody knows what that means but folks in Kentucky and other people who don't speak clearly. So you want a wordsmith so you can actually say what you want the client to hear and say it carefully. I had a friend of mine the other day write this word. We have a whole slew of options. A whole what? S-L-E-U? Slew? S-L-E-W? Slew? S-L-O-U-G-H? Slew? What does a whole slew mean? I thought slew came one after slain, Be careful with your words. And the script, when you write it down, you're going to write it down and correct any of those things. Then it allows you to direct the conversation. You remember last week we did a little game where I asked you to guess a number, and at the end of the conversation, I told you what the number was. In fact, I even remember it this week. All of you came up with 18. And the reason you did is because I directed the conversation. A script keeps you in control. The other thing it does, it prepares you for objections. Objections shouldn't stop you from your presentation. An objection is really a question that asks for clarification. It's not objecting to you and not necessarily objecting to your product. It's simply a request for more information. And that's why you write a script. What could the client say positively? What could the client say in a neutral way? What could the client say if it's a negative response? And then be prepared for the objection. One of the sales training things I do often is we have objection clinics. Tell me what you've heard, and then let's together, all of us in this room, come up with a response that we can all agree on that makes sense. Objection clinics give you confidence too, just like scripts. Okay, in an opening script, remember the quote I gave you from Benson said, when you write it down, it not only lets you prepare for the end, but how to start things. So what do you want to do in an opening script? Well, you want to have a goal, right? You want to know why we're doing this. And frankly, so does your client or your prospect. So does your wife. So does your children. Everyone wants to know what our goal is here. What are we talking about? And your goal in any script is to introduce yourself in an opening script, correct? This is an opening script, and you want to introduce yourself. How you do that's really important. So we call that an elevator speech. And the reason we call it an elevator speech is because it describes what you would say to someone on an elevator with the time it takes to go to one floor or another. That's an elevator speech. And every presentation that we do has to come with an introduction, and an introduction begins with an elevator speech. It's so important. I used to go to meetings or parties or open houses, and I couldn't wait for somebody to ask me what I did so I could say, I work for Merrill Lynch. And I wanted people to say, oh, wow, thank goodness, a stockbroker. Wow, a financial advisor. Well, that never happened. The worst thing I ever said was, I'm Stan Craig, and I'm an account executive for Merrill Lynch. Okay, what's next? Do you play baseball? Do you like ball? Are you married? You want an introduction that opens the door to conversation. So introduce yourself. The second goal is to explain your purpose. Why are you there? I'm Stan Craig. Pause. Oh, yeah, the reason for my conversation is you have to explain your purpose. That's a part of your introduction. Clients want to know why we're having this conversation. And then you want to get permission to continue. One of the easiest ways to do that is say, do you mind if I ask you a question? Or can I ask you something about that? Or can I share something else with you? You get permission to continue because sometimes a conversation goes on forever. You ever had one of those robocalls and you by mistakenly picked it up and someone starts and they read that whole conversation because somebody's asking them to and listening on the other end of the phone, and you are lost about a third into it and they go on and on and on? That's not you, right? And then a query. What does a query mean? It's another question. And questions are so important to use in any script. Don't make it just you talking. You want the client involved, and that means you have to ask a question. You have to ask a query that's really important. And then you want to give a personal response. A personal response. It's so easy to say, for me especially. My brother passed away without any documents, and that's why I'm passionate about this. You can have all kinds of personal responses. My family's learning how money works. I said to you before, I grew up in poverty and we didn't know how money worked. And as a result of that, most of my family stayed in poverty. You have a personal response, something that tells the client about you, especially if you want the client to open up with their feelings. So let me give an example. If you are in person, this is not a phone call, but in person, it would work with a phone call introduction, but this is in person. Your elevator speech must contain your name and what you do. So how do you get the client to say what open up the opportunity for you to ask? Tell them what you do. How do you get a client to say, what do you do? Or how do you have permission to do it? So this is the way it works. Hello, I'm Stan Craig, and you are? Let me just tell you how important this is. If you are in any group meeting, if you're in a training session, if you're in a cocktail party, if you're at a party, if you're at an open house, wherever you are, when you see someone you don't know, tell them your name. Just walk up and say, I'm Stan Craig, and you are? Really easy. And they say, oh, Stan, you met me before. And we did. I'm so sorry I didn't remember. You want to be sure that they're going to tell you who they are. Just walk up and say, Stan Craig. They can turn and walk away. Hello, I'm Stan Craig, and you are? I am Bill. And Bill, remember again, what do you do? And then they will say what they always do. I work for Ford Company. I'm the manager for General Motors. I have my own business. And then you say, well, let me take a second to tell you what I do. I help families understand how money works and how to make your money work as hard for you as you work to earn it. That's what I do. I do that every day. Many times they will say, and because isness is doesness, what you do defines who you are. I help families understand how money works and how to make your money work as hard for you as you work for it. Let me ask you a question. Are you an investor? That's that query that we talked about. This allows them to say yes or no. Why would you want a closed-end question? Because if their answer can tell you whether they're a good prospect or not. I'd like to be, but I'm flat broke. I wish we could, but my family and I are working really hard just to, get our kids through school. You want to know if they're qualified. This helps you understand if they're qualified. If they're an investor and they start talking about their 401k or their account at TD Ameritrade, then those are your prospects. And by the way, just remember, your best prospect is someone who's doing business elsewhere. Your best prospect is someone you don't have to take a lot of time to educate, but they're doing business elsewhere because most of them are getting pathetic service. Our business is called financial services, but most people never get around to providing service. Not at all. Taking a client from somebody else is as easy as feeding candy to a baby because they're not getting good service. We'll talk about how to make that conversation work next time to bring an account over from somewhere else. So here's another alternative to script. I told you the one. This is what I do. I help families. Here's another. I help families move from spenders to savers. And I love this language that you all have. I mean, this is your language. I just am adopting your language. I help families move from spenders to savers to learn how to grow their assets rather than to watch their money disappear. And then I added this because this is true for me. It's a calling for me that I really enjoy. I told you I was a missionary for money. I just figured the reason most people are broke is they don't know how money works. They have it. They just don't know what to do with it. It's really important. You can stop that phrase if you want to before it's a calling, but for me it was. I help families move from spenders to savers. That's terrific. Thank you all for making that part of your goal and to learn how to grow assets rather than just watch money disappear. That's a calling for me, and I really enjoy it. What do you think? Are your family spenders or savers? That's a good question, isn't it? And the answer to that can tell you a lot. It starts the conversation. And that's what these are conversation starters. You introduce yourself and you say what you do. Here's another. I work with entrepreneurs to help them build a wall of security around their business capital. So what do, Sam? I work with entrepreneurs to help them build a wall of security around their business capital. Let me ask you a question. Have you protected the future of your firm? If you know a guy's in the door, this is important. How do you protect the future of your firm? Well, you do it with insurance, because an entrepreneur generally has built his business around himself and his other key people. That's why key man insurance is so very important. And how do you protect the future of the firm? If John of John's Hardware is going to pass away, there needs to be money there to keep that business going without John and to bring somebody else in to run it. All these openings are just there to help you find your market for the products you want to offer. Here's one that I really like is I help pre-retirees create a guaranteed income and to protect their assets from unnecessary taxes. You create a guaranteed retirement income. There's the query question. What do? I help pre-retirees. Why do I like those guys? Because they're in the accumulation phase. Their assets are growing, and everyone's concerned about having enough money to retire. And I want to create a guaranteed income and protect your assets from unnecessary taxes. What does that? Well, you know what does that? An annuity, right? An annuity. No matter what they've heard about annuities, you and I both know they have a real place in a guaranteed retirement income, even with a life benefit added. They're terrific. Have you created guaranteed retirement income? And get ready for the answers. I have Social Security. Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't think that's a guaranteed retirement income. Well, I have an employee pension plan. Yeah, a lot of people found that sometimes employers aren't around, right? Have you ever thought about what a guaranteed income could do for you and for your family? You keep talking about it before you bring up the term annuity, but man, I love annuity sales. I think they're important. There's all kinds of indexed annuities, market indexed annuities, other annuities, and you can find a way to help clients with those, especially pre-retirement people who can set aside some money and save it. Most families haven't taken the time to protect the most important people in their lives. With an estate plan for spouses and potential heirs, I help solve that problem as we create a low cost but a very complete estate plan. What is it you do? Well, most families, in fact, 85% of the people in America haven't taken the time to do that. And so I help people create an estate plan. We'll talk about that in just a minute, because here's the question: do you have an estate plan? I'm going to show you what to say when they have a positive, neutral, or a negative comment here in just a second. What about the NetLaw script opening? If you're a marketer of NetLaw, and my feeling is every one of you should be a marketer of NetLaw. Why? Because it is a product where there's no competition out there for you. There are no other financial advisors really taking the time to talk to clients about it. I mean, they don't see it as very productive. They don't see it as a big ticket item. You and I both know that NetLaw opens the door to selling every major product you want by allowing you to ask questions for your clients. So here's a NetLaw opening. I help solve a family problem that touches 80% of the families in the U.S. just by creating a will, family trust, and medical documents for California, or for Oregon, or for Kentucky, or for Florida. And it's an easy and affordable benefit for everyone in the family. Here's what I do, and it's an easy and affordable benefit for everyone in the family. Here's the question again. May I ask, do you have a completed will, and is it up to date? There's the statement of what you do, and there's the query. And remember, what I said to you, you've just heard me do. I've made this formal written statement my own and used my own language, and that's what I want you to do. But the query is pretty straightforward. Do you have a completed will, and is it up to date? So let's think about some responses. I already have a will. I was talking with a sales manager the other afternoon, and he said, one of the questions that I still have trouble with is when someone says, well, I've already done that, already have a will. What do you say? Well, here's what I think is appropriate response to that. First, congratulations. You and your family are a member of an exclusive group because most Americans haven't done what you've done. So congratulations to you. Is that smart? I think it's really smart. Congratulate them, pat them on the back, make them feel guilty if they're not telling the truth, right? Congratulations. And then say, let me ask you a couple quick questions. When was it created and when was it last updated? A few years ago. And when was it last updated? I don't think it's ever been updated. I don't really know. Any changes since then? I mean, anything changed in your family since that was written? And I'll tell you the answer to that is, of course there have been. Of course there have been. And then, is it easily accessible when you need it? I mean, if your wife needed it today, if your husband needed it today, or if your family needed that will and trust documents today, are they accessible? And the answer again is, I don't even know where they are. Makes a big difference. Then here's the other question. Does it include the required medical documents in a family trust? When you did this will, does it have the medical documents in a family trust as well? Again, as you know, most people haven't done this in any detail at all. They don't even understand how important the medical documents are. The New York Times survey said that 80% of Americans have no idea of what advanced care planning is, nor the consequences of not having one in place. This is really important. You are a missionary to do good for families. I think it's really critical. Now, here's a neutral response. Remember, I said there's positive responses and there's negative responses and there's neutral responses. When the guy says, I have one, you want to come back and ask him questions. If he's neutral, many questions can be, because it sounds like an attorney. Are you an attorney? Well, no, I'm not an attorney, but I dress like one. I'm not an attorney, but I look like one. I'm not an attorney, but there's all kinds of responses. Here's what you're supposed to say. No, but I represent a top estate planning firm that offers my clients a digital will for both spouses, a family trust, and complete medical documents if you're ever hospitalized. Plus, we have a digital storage vault in a secure but easily accessible online program. And you can actually access it by the touch of a fingertip on a smartphone. So you've explained that you're not an attorney. You tell them what you do, and then you say, plus the value of these documents far exceeds the price. So you've brought up price. Why do you want to do that? Because you are the best guy in town. In our newspaper in Jacksonville, there's a quarter-page ad that runs fairly frequently in our local newspaper, the Florida Times. And in that newspaper, this ad from an attorney shows his picture and says, family trust, $295 for a single person, $495 for a couple. $495, and that's just for his version of a family trust. That doesn't include the medical documents, the last will and testament, doesn't include a pet trust, doesn't include all the things that we do. So we're not ashamed to talk about price. It's really a great value for every client. And the value far exceeds the price of the documents. What do you mean by that? Well, if you're in the hospital and you do not have any medical documents prepared, no last will, no living will, no durable power of attorney for healthcare. Well, hospital can do whatever expensive, whatever unnecessary, and whatever even harmful treatment that they may want to do if you haven't prepared in advance to tell them what you expect of them. And unfortunately, if you happen to be unconscious, as you know, from an accident, from a medication that you've taken, from anesthesia, from having a fall, from any sort of thing that can render you unconscious, and today there are a lot of things that can do that, then you want to be sure there's somebody to speak for you. How valuable is that? Well, that's life valuable, isn't it? Then here are NetLaw responses, because here's the negative. No, I don't need that. I think I'll just use LegalZoom. Why wouldn't I want to do that? In fact, it's another question I get occasionally from advisors. Because you get a whole lot less for a whole lot more money. Because you spend more and get less. That's the reason you don't want LegalZoom. What do I mean by that? Man, it's $149 for one will. I just looked it up yesterday. $250 if you want two. If get a family trust, that's $249. I've already spent $500 and I got very basic stuff done. But what about the medical document package? Ooh, that's $40 each. There it comes another $100 almost. You want to make a change or an update? It's $28 anytime there's a change. Gosh, it costs you so much more. You get more for less. And what you do not get? You do not get the vault. You do not have the vault. What a treasure it is to be included with NetLaw, because that holds all your documents and any other vital papers. I've talked about the vault so many times. I'm sure you know the value, but if you can scan it, you can keep it. Hey, graduation's coming up. Many students are graduating from college and others graduate from high school. Did you take photos? Where'd you put them? Where are they so other people can share them? Well, if they're on your phone, they're fairly useless, right? You can put them in the vault and share them with everybody else who has access. And by the way, you give people access by sharing your password. Well, I use Rocket Lawyer. I've looked at those guys. They're really good. Golly, you're really good. They're $19 a month for basic documents. $19 a month for basic documents. Good Lord. It's $39 a month for all documents. What does all documents mean? It means, unfortunately, that they are a document factory. That whatever you want, I want to incorporate in California. I want a landlord agreement, I want a dissolution of marriage agreement. I want a premarital, whatever document you want, we can print them out for you. We're a document factory. We got them all loaded in here. That's not the kind of place that NetLaw is, of course. There's no vault. Full fees continue. What does that mean, full fees continue? It means they charge you $19 a month, and it goes on and on and on and on, without any vault, without any real individual care. And these fees are per person, not per family, but per person. Why would you want to do that when you get more for a lot less when you work with NetLaw? And the other thing is there's no American Bar Association recognition. That good housekeeping stamp of approval, that was the standard for years, that the good housekeeping stamp of approval is on it. This is a stamp of approval from the American Bar Association. And for legal documents, that's who I want to approve it. I mean, for NetLaw, you have the American Bar Association award. You have a one-time payment that covers both spouses and family trust. A one-time payment, that is, unless you've made other arrangements. It includes all the medical documents, which are critical, the durable power of attorney for health care, the HIPAA authorities, and the living will. It's digital access, which is terrific. That means it's always available 24/7. Smartphone app, gosh, when you see this, you're really going to be excited. It's going to work even better than Six does, Step 6. In fact, as an aside, I heard one of your leaders say the other day, Step 6 ought to really be Step 1. This is how you should begin every relationship with a client, because you can do this before you have any registration, as you know. It includes the family vault with unlimited updates. Listen, life changes. People change. Things happen in families. You may want to be doing updates far more regularly than you dream, just because things change. And that monthly $8, that's a whole lot less than those other guys want. And it provides continuing access, the ability to change, update, and peace of mind. Peace of mind. How would you pay $8 for a little peace of mind? Well, you're really going to get it with NetLaw, because you and your family know that you're covered. I'm covered. I've taken care of this. If I have to go to the hospital tomorrow, if something were to happen to me and I wouldn't be there for my family, I'm covered. I'm covered. And that's the $8. That access is so important that it's there all the time for you to share with anyone. In our vault, it even has funeral and memorial plans. You can add funeral and memorial plans in your NetLaw vault. All these things are there to give you peace of mind and to make it easy for you. Well, the biggest advantage of NetLaw, of course, is you, that there's you to talk about it, you to help a client with it, you to do some handholding. You're the one that's sharing it. It's not going online and just hunting up something and reading something on Google or Yahoo or those other guys. It's you talking to someone in person, using a personal approach, a thoughtful approach to share it with a client. You make the difference. The other difference is you have NetLaw support. Man, you got Jennifer and Vanessa and Mark and Mary there to just help you and bring all the resources of NetLaw to play when it's needed. And that support member is not just for you, it's for your client. Clients can call. That's pretty unusual for a professional service organization that serves you as a professional also to take calls from clients. Most of the ones say, I don't want clients to call. No mutual fund wants clients to call. They just want to talk to you. And then there's continual updates and improvements. You know, Gary mentioned at the start, there's so many things underway to make this even a better value for your clients. And there's ways under consideration right now and in the works to help you have new products to offer based around NetLaw. I think that's a huge advantage. This is not a static deal that created these and walked away. The other thing is the email within the app. When you see this new app, you'll find in there that if your client says, you know, I want to share this with my son, who's my chief beneficiary, well, you can email it to him. If he says, I want to share my living will with my durable power attorney for healthcare, touch the app and you can send it to that person. Anybody in your contacts, you can bring up and send documents to them. That's going to be huge. And this app is so close to being done. You're going to be excited when you see it. And so will your client. Plus, it gives you a reason to go back and talk to your previous clients about things that go involved. And then you can have confidence in these documents. Vanessa and I were talking about this morning. Our documents are documents that are prepared by a pool of 30,000 documents prepared, estate documents prepared over the years at Hargrove and Madden, or Hargrove and Trauber. These documents have been all reviewed, synthesized by another attorney to create a pool of documents that fit each state and each client. You can have confidence in these documents because they're prepared by estate law attorneys. And then you get the pest trust, the special needs trust is coming. There are just a lot of good stuff on the way. And the best script that I think you can use is this one. When you've explained to a client, perhaps even before they decide to buy, would you like to put the first name in your will, your name or your spouse's name? For those of you who don't, that's called an assumptive close. Would you like, you just expect this is going to happen. Would you like to put the first name in your will, your name or your spouse's name? And then you wait and say, you know, by the way, that really doesn't matter. What you're going to be doing is filling out a smart guide for you both at the same time. Here's really good news. There's no repetitive typing of information. Don't you just hate it when you got to type in something over and over and over and over? It's the same stuff. Well, the smart guide with NetLaw is going to fill in each document from your one-time completion of the basic information. And you don't have to complete every document this week or this month. You got time to think through about your decisions. I think you're really going to enjoy NetLaw, and the benefit to your family is going to be amazing. Well, I hope I've helped you with some scripts today, and I hope I've given you some encouragement to create your own, make your own, prepare in advance, do your wordsmithing, know what's going to come next. And one of the very last scripts is thank you, right? We never want to forget to say thank you. So I want to thank you for being here, and I also want to share with a thank you that comes to your client. After you say thank you to your client, you just want to say, remember, after the first year, you want to continue your family vault. I mean, your passport, your holiday pictures, old photos, family recipes, you know, they're going to be available for anyone in your family to share. And you can add new documents as time goes by. It's such a great deal. So just be sure that you're set up to pay that $8. Plus, again, that means you can change your documents anytime you want and add new things. Is there a new baby? Is there a new marriage? Is there a new celebration? Where do those pictures go? They go right in your family vault. Did you find a new favorite recipe? Did your aunt give you her secret recipe for Italian meatballs? Man, it won't be a secret anymore, Granny. I'm going to put it in the vault so everybody can see it. Oh, gosh, it's been great fun chatting with you today, and I hope you've been encouraged to script. Hope you've been encouraged to talk about net law. It makes a huge difference for your business and for your clients. So thank you. We're here to help. Just call Mark, Vanessa, or Mary. And Vanessa, thank you for looking over the scripts for me and the answers to the questions that we had last week from Black Panther and for finding our two winners. Stick out. Step 6, just check it out. Gary mentioned to you before. I'm telling you, you can sell strictly from using that app that's in there. So just call us. There's the number. I look forward to seeing you next week. And if there's anything you want to share with me or any comment you want to make, any suggestions you want to make, in fact, this presentation this week came from a suggestion from one of you. So that's what we're here to do, to be of help to you.